Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be writing the equation given the graph using multiplicity and the y-intercept. So the first thing I want to look at is the multiplicity. We have 1 and -5, which is crossing. So since this is crossing, that means it's going to have an odd multiplicity. Okay, and then here at 3, this is touching. So that's going to be an even multiplicity. Okay, so at x equals -5, we're going to have an odd multiplicity. And at x equals 3, we're going to have an even multiplicity. Now remember that whenever we were working with multiplicity, it was always the opposite. So if it was x plus 1, that means that we were looking at x equals -1, it bounces. So we're going to go in reverse here. Since it's going through -5, that means we're going to have x plus 5, and that's going to have an odd multiplicity. And then we have x minus 3, that's going to have an even multiplicity. So I need to figure out what is going to go up here in the top. All right, so at -5, we have an odd multiplicity, and at +3, we have an even multiplicity. Okay, so putting an odd number in, we're just going to try 1 and 2. All right, and this should work out because you can see that this sort of looks like a parabola here, so that would give our squared. And this sort of looks like a linear equation here, which would give our 1. If it was a 3, it would look like a cubic function, so it would look something like this at the point. So this would be a multiplicity of 3. But here we do not have a multiplicity of 3, it's just going straight through. So that's going to be a multiplicity of 1 and a multiplicity of 2 because that is looking like a parabola there. Okay, but whenever I type this in, it's not going to give me my y-intercept of -30. So let's see what y-intercept it does give us. All right, we have +5 to the first and then times -3 squared. So our y-intercept so far is 5 to the first times -3 squared. Okay, so our y-intercept so far, we have 5 times -3 squared, and let's just go to Desmos so that we don't accidentally mess that up. Okay, and that's going to give us +45. All right, +45. So we have the y-intercept so far being +45, but our actual y-intercept is -30. So what we're going to do is we are going to do the y-intercept on the graph divided by the y-intercept that we have so far. So we're going to do -30 divided by 45, and we're going to reduce this fraction. Desmos actually does reduce fractions for us, so let's do this. -30 divided by 45, and then I'm going to click the little fraction button here. So this is really going to be -2/3. So since we get -2/3, that is actually the number that is going to go in front of our equation, and then we'll have our answer here. So our equation should be -2/3 times x plus 5 to the first times x minus 3 squared. Okay, and that was a really small place to write that. So let's just write it again. -2/3 x plus 5 to the first x minus 3 squared. All right, and we are going to go check this in Desmos. All right, and I really didn't need to write this. It was just really small, and I couldn't really see what was going on. Okay, and that was a -30. Okay, so let's go to Desmos and type this in, see if it does match up with our graph. Okay, we're going to have -2/3 times x plus 5 to the first times x minus 3 squared. Okay, and we can see that this is looking sort of like our graph. We have it going through -5, we have it bouncing at 3, and it should be going through the y-intercept of -30 all the way down here. So this does match up, even though it does look a little bit strange. If I actually crunch down this axis, it would look a little bit better. So if I made the x-axis go from like -8 to +10, now this sort of looks more like our function that we were given. So depending on how you put the window, it will look more like it or not. But going through -30, going through -5, and going through 3. Okay, so let's try out another one. And in this one, we actually had the y-intercept being negative 100. Okay, I just forgot to write that up there. So the first thing that we're going to start with is our touches and crosses, and you can see that at both of these, they are touches, and they look like parabolas. So that's going to be a multiplicity of 2, and this one is also touch even. Okay, so let's write out an approximate equation. It's going to be x plus 4 times x minus 2, and since they're both going to be even, let's make them both 2s since they do look like parabolas there. Okay, so we need to see our y-intercept so far. Okay, and that is going to be 4 squared times negative 2 squared. Okay, and whenever we go type that in, we're going to get 4 squared times negative 2 squared. We're going to get 64. Okay, 64 is not 100, so we need to keep that in mind. Okay, this is equal to 64. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the y-intercept on the graph and we're going to divide it by the y-intercept that we have so far. So we're going to have negative 100 divided by 64. We're going to reduce that fraction in Desmos. So let's go to Desmos. I'm going to type in negative 100 divided by 64. And I'm going to convert this to a fraction. So clicking this little button over here. Okay, and we're going to get negative 25 over 16. Okay, we got negative 25 over 16. So that's going to be the number that goes in the front. So we're going to have y equals negative 25 over 16 times x plus 4 squared times x minus 2 squared. All right, and let's just go check this in Desmos real quick. All right, so we're going to type this in. Let's just delete our first one. We have negative 25 over 16 times x plus 4 squared times x minus 2 squared. All right, and you can see this does look like our function. It is going through negative 100. It's also bouncing at negative 4, and it is bouncing at 2. And if we did fix this window, if I went instead from negative 5 to positive 5, this now looks more like the graph that we had on our paper, going through negative 100, going through 2, and going through negative 4. Okay, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help you out. Goodbye.